Good morning. Welcome to the HR Morning Show, the number one spot for all things HR all morning. And I'm your host, Serge Boudreau, joined by my lovely co-host, Dan. How you doing, Dan?
I am doing great. Great. It's I feel like summer's coming to an end, but I'm an optimist, so I think it's kind of really, it's all a state of mind. Summer is a state of mind.
Oh,
As
I think summer's still on for at least another couple of months, right? Like we've got
yes,
at least a month, maybe 2 months, but you've had a good summer. Have you? So we were talking in the green room that you went to see Rush, an
I did.
all-time great band. How was that?
It was amazing. That I have. There's very few bands in my life that I love lots of music, but this was might have been my like 20th time seeing them since I've been about 17 years old.
Oh wow.
So it was in Madison Square Garden, amazing. It was just amazing to see a band that loves what they do come back and just rock the room. There, it was. I highly recommend if you have an opportunity to see them, go see them.
There's nothing better for the soul than a concert, in my opinion. I have not gone for a little while. I would love to go see Rush actually, but I have to go see a bunch of concerts in the coming months because it's been at least a couple of years, which is it's really a shame. Like I need it.
Yeah, yeah, it's great for the soul. It is. It's you can just breathe. Really, yeah, it was wonderful. Especially at like outdoor concerts are great too. This happened to be Madison Square Garden, which is amazing in itself. But yeah, it was good.
It's the Mecca, right? Well, welcome to the audience to the HR Morning Show. We're part of the Purple Acorn Network. So check us out on purpleacornnetwork.com. Also, you can follow us on LinkedIn. If you're not already following us on LinkedIn, we're trying to hit 20,000 this year. I think we're around 3,000. So we've got a lot of room to make up. So please go follow us on LinkedIn. We're on YouTube. Subscribe to us. We're a podcast. So all of Purple Acorn's podcasts, which is around 15 of them, are all available on your favorite podcast player. And we're on the HR Morning Show every Tuesday. I really want to thank our special sponsor, calendarpa.com. Please go check it out. I think one of the most painful things in our world is actually scheduling. As a long-time recruiter, there's nothing I hated more than scheduling. So calendarpa.com is your solution. Please check it out. So we've got a lot going on today. We've got, I think, 3 interviews, some very special guests. How about we jump into the headlines first?
Let's do it. There's some good conversation.
So the first headline we have is about HR often using ChatGPT to complete non-HR tasks. So there was an analysis of over 800,000 corporate ChatGPT prompts conducted by OpenAI that revealed that 69% of all occupational messages submitted by HR professionals involve execution on non-HR tasks. I'm not surprised by this. HR has always been the world of scope creep. It's kind of the catch-all of any department, especially smaller HR departments, or in a lot of cases, a single HR person that everything comes to them, from organizing the parties to new policies to marketing to sales. Like everything seems to fall, especially in small companies, to HR. Are you surprised by this, Dan?
Um, I, I see it in a couple different ways. Number one, we've said over the years HR should be more strategic. They should be more connected to the business, to different functions of the business. So on one hand, I think it's an opportunity, maybe that it isn't such. There's no need. The compliance side of HR is sort of for the many organizations a pretty well-oiled machine. This is HR reaching out beyond what we might call typical the HR function. So the question is that a good way to do it? Is it actually responsible? My fear with that is, so I'm not surprised. My fear is that it's it's going to be genericized. The best way to understand the business, the best way to understand go to market, the best way to understand those connection points is to have conversations with people in the organization, not with your favorite AI or ChatGPT in this case.
Yeah. Yeah, no, if you look at it, it's there are risks here, right? Because as AI is coming into HR more, it's like we can execute on a ton more of tasks that we could, which is making it easier for the rest of the business to delegate some of these tasks to HR, which is my concern here, right? Because we've been talking about HR and seat at the table for how long? It's still very seen as an administrative duties by a lot of executives. And by doing more of these types of tasks, there's a huge risk that just evolves even more, especially for the smaller HR departments. I guess we'll see how HR reacts to that, because I was surprised to see 69% of their requests are non-HR related, which is what type of questions are they getting? I like to dive a little bit deeper to figure out, okay, what are they actually doing? Like what's the work, and why, if they're using AI to do these tasks, why are not the people asking for these tasks leveraging AI to do exactly these tasks?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting being a data person as well. When I saw that stat, I would be curious to know, all right, well, what are, the 69% of these prompts that are non-HR, what are they? And actually, might they fall into the HR realm, but OpenAI isn't necessarily categorizing as such.
Yeah.
I don't know that to be true. I like data, but I do worry about, certainly HR becoming kind of the default problem solver,
Yeah.
and getting a little off track and off focus because of this. So the stat is definitely of concern. I think we need a little more information about it. It wasn't terribly surprising, because there's such a curiosity that everybody has, right, with what you can learn and absorb through AI. But I would have preferred to see 40 or 50%.
Yeah, well, I would have preferred probably 10-20%, because
Yes.
I think you nailed one thing. I think being good at everything can really dilute HR's values, because if we become the default internal service desk, we might lose influence of being a strategic business partner, which is what we're trying to achieve, right? So I think for any HR professional that's watching and listening to this, is like, be very careful, right? Like, make sure, I think we're all very helpful people across the board, and we want to help the organization, but also we got to be very careful we're not diluting that value and spending the time on actually driving value to the business, which
Yeah.
is critical.
And just to add one quick thing to that, I would just suggest, those listening, if asked, if you're in HR and you have and requests come your way, it's okay to say why. So, for example, classically, people analytics functions are always asked, can you run the data like this and this and this? Well, what are we trying to achieve?
Yeah.
Why is this important? And I think it's okay to have those conversations, because one simple question of why, what's the outcome of this, what's the problem we're solving for, all of a sudden can tighten up that conversation, and then hopefully move that 69% closer to 10 or 20%. So I just challenge everyone it's okay to ask why, versus just running off to ChatGPT and trying to get answers.
Very good point. Let's jump into the next headline.
Yeah, so we all have seen this, that quitting, or I should say even moving on from jobs has changed, right? It's a little more, it's softer, it's almost a little more private, and even a little more spin. So there's a post, Sarah Needleman, she shares in her latest article in Business Insider, which really it's how to executives, especially it kind of focuses on high profile executives. What kind of moves are they making when they're leaving an organization? And I think this is pretty fascinating to me. And we're seeing carefully crafted communications on LinkedIn. We want to, whether you're furloughed or whether you're leaving on your own or whether it's whatever it might be, stories are a little are smoothed over. I think because public brand, the individual public brand of yourself, has become more and more important. The agency of who you are, and not so much the company you were working for. So we're seeing this, and employees are balancing. I think that authenticity and being professional, while employees are navigating reputation, confidentiality, employer brand. So I think this is a really interesting story, and it was an interesting post. What are your thoughts on this, Serge?
Yeah, I'm all so first of all, I think you have to be extremely professional when you're leaving any type of job because your personal brand is critical. But also, I think you have to be really careful. And this might just be a pet peeve of mine, but I don't know how many LinkedIn posts that I'm seeing, people getting laid off and spending like a lot of words describing how great the company is. And I just don't feel it's authentic at all. And this is very, very common, especially with how many layoffs that we've seen this year. It just feels so fake. So I think there's a line that you have to come across, that you have to be very careful about, because I agree. I think you should. It's always good to put a positive message for the company that you worked out there. But if you're spending too much time praising that company, it just doesn't feel authentic. It feels disingenuous. And do you feel the same? Is it just a weird pet peeve that I'm getting lately?
For sure, I think there's a difference between being nice and kind. I talk about this a lot in leadership. I mean, being nice is just sort of saying, "Oh, and they were great," and they did. But being kind is actually being more authentic and honest. And it doesn't mean you're saying. Yes, I urge everyone to hold off on saying
Yeah.
things you might regret. It's like that email that you
Yeah.
write, read it in the morning. But it's okay to say, this wasn't a good fit for me,
Yeah.
or for whatever ever reason. So that I think that tension between personal brand, and maintaining reputation and relationship with the organization, there's this feeling that, well, I need to do that. I need to say all the right things. Yeah, and I think you can be kind and honest about you're moving on without necessarily saying terrible things about where you were. But if it didn't fit, it didn't fit. Look, it's like a marriage or a relationship. Guess what? Sometimes they don't work. It doesn't mean you hate the person. It doesn't mean the person's a terrible person. It doesn't mean the person's not going to find an incredible relationship without you. It means it didn't work for those two people. I think using that sort of analog, should apply in this scenario as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like a fine line because one of the challenges of LinkedIn, I've seen this in the last couple of years, is um, people are very careful of what they write, which is understandable because this is your professional image, but also it's made the platform, in my personal opinion, really not authentic. I don't know how many posts that I'm reading. I'm like, is this real? I think there's a situation where you need to explain what you're doing, right? And meaning that you got laid off and you're reaching out to your network on LinkedIn to find the next job, the next career, or whatever you're looking for. And I think it's good to point out, okay, hey, this didn't work out, or I got laid off, or whatever. Then go into what value you can bring to the next company. I think that is smart for any job seeker. But what I've seen is 90% going on the company they work for, then 10% talking about the value they could bring to another company. I think that you need to flip that around.
Yeah.
But to your earlier point, I think there is a fine line that you shouldn't go on social media, say you got a divorce or broke up with someone, and show all the bad values of that particular person. And you definitely shouldn't do that on LinkedIn as well.
Right.
And I've seen that. And I'm like,
Well,
we gotta be a little careful here.
and because for look, most things are a two-way street. Yeah. If something doesn't work out, relationship or job wise, again, it isn't. It isn't a failure. It might be that I decided the energy I was going to put into this job, I didn't feel right. I didn't move me. It didn't inspire me. But I have so much to offer. Instead of spending, like you said, that that 70-80% when you're sharing the updates around, oh, all the great things I did that aren't really relevant anymore, versus, yeah, flip it and say, look, this is what matters to me. This is my story. Again, it's taking that ownership, that agency back for yourself. Say what you will. If you have nothing great to say, maybe don't say anything. Just say, I'm leaving my role, and I'm super excited about where I'm going, and these are the things that
Yeah.
excite me. And so I think that, yeah, but this sort of checklist of I need to compliment, I need to tag every single person I worked with, and I need to summarize the ROI in every project I delivered. Yeah, there's no need for that.
Well, I think also right now we're very much an employer-led marketplace when it comes to looking for jobs. I think job seekers are very conscious of that and want to make sure that they're not burning any bridges, because if you're posting something positive, there's a much higher likelihood that you will get a reference, or a good reference in a lot of cases. So I think it's just striking that fine balance of being very respectful, same as you would as a breakup, right? Being very respectful, but making it clear that you're looking for the next thing, and these are the values and virtues that I can bring to your company, and then it makes sense.
Yeah.
But when's the last time you quit a job, Dan?
I
You've been a
mean,
serial entrepreneur for a long
yeah, I've
time.
been an entrepreneur for, I would say that after I sold my last company and then worked at Aon for 4 years, that was just more, I was obligated through contractual realities after, post acquisition, to work there for a period of time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't quitting. It was just sort of putting in my time, and which I loved. It was a great opportunity. But then I was hungry and ready to do my own thing again. So it's been a long time. I can embarrassingly, I don't think I've ever officially quit a job. And I'll share a 20-second story. It was funny. Before I founded my company, Modern Survey, earlier in the days, I was working at United Health Group doing a lot of their talent management work. And then Modern Survey, so we started doing a lot of their work as well. Their bigger employee survey, 360 programs. And immediately I talked to the CHRO at the time, and we had a conversation, and it was like, you're you're kind of moonlighting us with us as an employee, but you just started this company. You're also working with us. This is not, you probably need to choose. And he was right. And he said, and I'm going to guess you're going to choose your company because that's, and I'm like, yes, absolutely. Even though they loved, having me kind of as a moonlighter and doing things for them, I said, yeah. So I did, so I would wind down my time. But that was an honest, open conversation. And I had, great things to say, but I kind of pivoted to the type of work I was doing. So.
Very smart, very smart. And if I think about the last time I resigned, or pretty much, I've always had another gig lined up, right? So it was always, my announcement was always focused on the next gig with a quick paragraph or a couple of lines just saying, hey, it was great to work at this company, respect them, wish them the best, but here is what I'm moving on to. So, Dan, we've got a bunch of guests. We are going to jump into our first guest. Good morning, Mindy. How are you?
Hey, such a pleasure to be here. Thank you. And I'm
Well,
representing both me and my co-founder, Marnie, who unfortunately wasn't able to be here this morning because, life happens.
life happens. I know exactly what that means. Well, I am glad to have you on the show, Mindy. I know that both you, Mindy, and Marnie are the co-founder of AltHR Hive.
Hive.
Sorry,
Yeah, hive,
Hive,
like in
Hive.
bees. Yeah.
And you're the co-host of the Shift podcast.
Yes, exactly.
How about, so what is your role exactly, and what is Marnie's role? So, do you want to give me a little bit of insight on Alt HR Hive, and then
Yeah.
we'll go into the podcast?
Yeah, definitely. So Marnie and I are co-founders. We both have our own fractional HR businesses,
Yeah.
and we came together and in many conversations realized that we, in similar ways, were working with HR professionals to equip and elevate them, and really walking through a very common framework. And that framework, after experimenting together, became the Signal framework.
Yeah.
And we became very passionate around telling the stories of people in shift that are in this liminal space of uncertainty that we're all finding ourselves in, and really reimagining how work is done. And so we realized that people needed to hear stories of change in order to realize the possibility of change versus just seeing the problems. And the signal loop is something that are 6 just easy steps to be able to really meet someone where they're at in the moment of change, to help create a dialogue that really gets to root cause analysis for hypothesis and testing and experimenting in order to figure out what's that next step forward.
You want to give me a quick roundup of these 6 steps while you mention it?
Yeah. So, the S is really about seeing where the heat is being felt in the organization. There's friction is
Yeah.
often, we label it as bad really quickly, right? Which in a way is starting to
Yeah.
already solve for something. It's labeling it as bad and we go down that pathway. But really friction, we should get curious about it. Friction's a signal,
Yeah.
something to start to I is investigate. So S is really seeing, right? It's observing what's
Yeah.
going on today. I is investigating, gathering the data, really doing that root cause analysis. And then N is, oh, sorry, G. Can I spell this morning? G is really about being able to, once we get the data, we start to be able to start to get curious about it and see the opportunities that are in front of us. And there's usually different pathways that we can take in based on the data that we're looking at. And it's about choosing that one opportunity statement to create a hypothesis. And then once we have a hypothesis, if we do this, then we anticipate that to happen. Then N is the nudge. That's designing. And we call it nudge on purpose because often we start getting to designing, we really overthink and we start to think about projects and programs
Yeah.
and things that really are going to require a lot of time. And really, we just need a
Yeah.
nudge. We need something that says, is this moving us in the direction we anticipate it to or not? And so that's N. And A is all about alignment. This is often missing. This is where we change management
Yeah.
is so important, is about how are we telling people. I mean, a nudge can even be, I as a manager, I'm going to try out something different in how I show up in my one-on-ones. Like that could be a hypothesis. If I try this in my one-on-ones, then I expect this outcome to happen. But are we telling anyone we show up differently? I've had so many times where employees will come to me, managers with the best of intent, where the employee's like, oh my goodness, my manager, like they had this, like they changed their behavior, right? And am I going to get fired? My manager's showing up differently. And it was really like manager trying something different and forgot to tell anyone that they were going to start trying something that's something that they're trying to grow in their own self. So it's really important. Communication is often key. And are we aligning with those? And also A is important too, because often we don't have to design that nudge all alone. We can
Yeah.
design it in cohort with others. And so the L is where we often miss. I mean, all these steps are things that we are so quick to start to solve something that really is a symptom. And then we may do something and then we realize, oh, this is happening again. Why is this happening again? Well, L is about learning. It's about the retrospective or
Yeah.
agile, where it's like, okay, we did this. What went well? What didn't go well? What do we want to carry forward? What are we going to leave behind?
Alignment is the one that really stands out in me because it's the hardest challenge that I've had working in HR departments
Mm,
is getting the line managers and managers in each department, the executives to all align to that one thing that we're going to try to do that might be different than what they're used to, but it kind of goes into the challenge of HR, right? Because
yeah.
I was reading a little bit of like your background, I was reading what you've said, and you've said a couple of times that HR really needs a different approach.
hmm
What do you think is the biggest thing that traditional HR is getting wrong today?
Yeah. It's that business operational mindset. It's that
Yeah.
systems thinking. It's the ability to because it's so hard. The role is so difficult because we often are so lean. It's
Yes.
underinvested in, and we get lost in the weeds. And we have to be able to pull ourselves out and holistically see the forest from the trees and to have the systems way of thinking and understand. We're one of the functions that actually gets to work across all of the
Yeah.
organization. We get to touch all the different aspects if we're able and doing this job really well. We're often the human glue of the system, and in how
Love that.
are the humans in the organization in the moments that matter, how are we or are we not aligned with the process and the ways of working and the technology that we're working with.
I'm glad you brought that up. So, in the opening of our show, in one of our headlines, we talked about recent study that OpenAI did. They
Mhm.
evaluated, I think, 800,000 posts from HR professionals of what they're asking, right? And 69% of it was non-HR tasks that they were trying to figure out because they're executives or other team members.
Mhm.
And as you know, like you're working fractional, a lot of HR teams are very small and sometimes there's only one person.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes into that situation that we're maybe asking HR to do a little bit too much. Or maybe we're asking them to do the wrong things. Like, have you
Mhm.
seen that? Like, does
Yeah.
this make sense to you that HR professionals are searching 70% of the time something that is not related to HR and something they're trying to do for the rest of the
Mhm.
business?
Yeah, it's often the kitchen sink of what no one else
Yes.
wants to do.
And that's a
It
risk, right?
Yeah.
Because like
Mhm.
they're becoming the in-house like service desk,
Yes.
and I don't
Yes.
think that should be the case.
No, and often if you're in the smaller organizations that we work in, the individual that may be in now that's overseeing HR may also oversee many other things. So they're wearing like 5 or 6 hats, and we can't do 5 or 6 things super well. And
Yeah.
we may not, as a human, really enjoy all those 6 or 7 things. It may not be in what we're uniquely gifted to do. Sure, we can probably do all that okay, um, but there comes a breaking point within an organization as that organization's growing that you're really stretching something so thin that it's going to somewhere in that system is starts to become the the kind of the cog that gets stuck, and now
Yeah.
the rest of it's not working so good and you're wondering like what happened. This all felt so well oiled. And I think both of those things. I do think managers will often come to HR professionals and ask them to do things. Hey, let's go do this. But if we've now become just doing all the things and we start to without even realizing it, becoming very transactional and reactive,
Yeah.
we may hear what this manager is asking for. Oh, another thing to do. Let's just get it done without having a moment to take a step back and saying, okay, well, let's get curious about that. Hey, manager, why is that a priority right now? How does that fit into everything else that we're doing? What is coming up for you right now that you feels like it's a priority?
Yeah.
Often managers are coming with emotion
Yeah.
and
Of
it's not
course.
actually a problem. There's something underlying it that is they're just looking at a symptom of something deeper, and they need a thought partner to help
Yeah.
them kind of take the breath to and take a moment to ask those powerful questions, just go through signal and understand what's underlying this and what are those right next steps forward. And I do think, right, as the HR function, when we get to be a certain size, and often people say, well, what is the right size for the HR team to be when I have so many employees or I'm at such a revenue? And it's really different depending on the organization. I think that answer, really is about, taking a step back and like, are there things that we can automate? Are there,
Yeah.
certain things? The number of people it's hard to tell until you get in there to really understand how does this organization functioning. It may need more people if it's like an organization that requires more human conversation and support. And, let's say they have automated everything, but it's highly collaborative and innovative, and they really need to have more brains to be able to dialogue with. So maybe there is a reason for more humans. I do know an organization in Canada that their all of their employees have like a coach. They really see the HR team as personal coaches for the employees, and it's incredible because it's really their business operational coaches. They're like everyone gets a little
Yeah.
mini business coach, and it's super powerful. And so their team's a little bit larger for the size of organization than you
Yeah.
would usually see. But there's different ways to think about it, and I think it's something, those questions are what we should be asking, because no one human should be doing 5 jobs.
100% agree. And I love that concept of that own personal coach. Kind of reminds me, I don't know if you've ever watched Billions, but Wendy,
Mhm.
that's basically her job as the HR in-house psychologist in a way too, which is might be a scope creep in its own way. I There's so many things that I would love to continue talking to you about, but we're short on time. But there's
I
a couple
know.
of things that I love to get your quick take on. So I'm going to give you a quick sentence. You give me like a fairly quick answer on what you think. So HR needs to stop what?
It just stop reacting,
Okay, love that. HR needs to start.
asking powerful questions.
Love that. In one word, the future of HR is.
The glue, the human glue of organizations.
I think you should brand that if you haven't branded it yet. I love it. So you also have a very popular podcast. I
Mhm.
would love to know a little bit about it. So how long has it started? How many episodes are you
Yeah.
in? What do you focus on?
Yeah. So it's AltHR Hive, the shift. And we started this year and we're at
Okay.
15 episodes already. I can't believe it. And we've already recorded more that we haven't yet published. And they have been so exciting. It's every single one I think is my favorite. and but in different ways and without realizing it, every guest that has come on has really started to speak about the lack and the need for humanity in our organizations and the level of care and connection that they're all really in different ways working with
Mm,
leaders and businesses to solve for, which they come on to the show really speaking about their unique specialization and gifting and how they're supporting leaders through change. And yet, at the end of the day, when we come down to it foundationally, they're solving a human lack of humanity,
mm.
as human skills.
Available on all podcast players, I'm assuming?
Yes, it is. It is.
Perfect.
Yes. And YouTube if you want to watch.
So anyone listening, watching this wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way, Mindy?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn probably more than I would like to, but
I
it
think
is
we
the
all are,
hub.
yeah. It is, and your website. So
Yeah. So our website,
altrhive.com.
AltHR Hive. Yep. Yes. Yes.
Good on you getting the
Thanks.
.com. Mindy,
Yeah.
this was a pleasure. Really
Such a
appreciate
joy.
meeting you. Let's do
Mhm.
this again. There is
I
so
would
many
love
things I
it.
love to deep dive on.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Heather, how are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you?
I am fantastic. So good to have you here. I don't know how we're going to get through this in 10 or so minutes. There's so many questions I have for you. So,
Oh boy. I'll try to answer quickly.
what's your favorite
Thanks for
color? What's your
having
favorite
me.
food? No, kidding. I love the questions they just did about HR, filling in the words. Maybe we'll come up with a couple of sentences to fill in the
Mhm.
blanks at the end. Yeah, Heather, thank you for joining us, and your background's super impressive. You currently are principal consultant at the brand strategy tank. You also work as an adjunct lecturer at University of Arkansas.
Yes.
And anything else before we dive in that you want to kind of say about who you are, why you do the work you do,
Sure.
purpose?
Um, yes, I also am a doctoral candidate at Vanderbilt University. And to give you the story in a nutshell, I was a career marketer for about 20 years. I thought I was the cool kid. And I was with a startup that I lived, ate, and breathed and fell in love with. But I was also a mishire, as is often the case with startups. There was a person in the position of CMO who hired me that, got paid in Chipotle burritos, and you're the CMO. And I realized, oh, this is a mishire. Let me show you how to hire these people that you actually need and build out the dashboards. But this isn't actually my area of expertise. I'm more of a brand strategist. Loved them. I didn't want to lose them. They didn't want to lose me, but I had to be transparent. And on a Friday, they came to me and said, we have a proposition for you. Sure. And he said, would you join the people experience team? And I wrinkled my nose and I said, ooh, HR. And that is a true story. In my book back then, HR was nothing more than the complaint department. It was the people who walked into the room and everybody felt they had to act differently. And I said, let me think about this over the weekend. But I had realized that over the course of 20 years, I had worked with the legal team, the product team, the engineering team, the finance team, the account. And I had never worked with the people team. And that is how your people come in the door, the people I was working with every day. And it was the best thing I ever did. I went back to school, and that led me to becoming a researcher at Vanderbilt. In my doctoral work, I'm focused very much on people systems. I love that Mindy talked about that. I was writing notes voraciously about what she was saying because I realized in that work, in moving from people to marketing, how very broken the systems are within organizations. And so that is what I'm focusing on in my work right now.
I love that. And when you said, you made a sentence that it could be the name of a book if you're going to write one, and it simply, the title is Ew, HR.
Yeah. Actually, I have that written down.
Yes, exactly. But of course, you go on to talk about the beauty of the people side of it, but it would be a clever title. So there you go.
Thank you.
So I am curious about some research that you in your doctorate that you worked on, the workforce readiness paradox, and fascinated by this. This is something I live and breathe and speak about and write about and work on. But the premise or argument that you make is that students and emerging professionals are really being told two completely different stories about AI, right? And there's this fear that exists, and we're teaching both new people coming into the workforce to fear the very tools that they will likely be using. So tell me a little bit more about this research, and I have a couple questions about it, but I think this is so core to AI adoption, AI readiness, and yeah, give me a quick little summary of
Sure. So I'll take you back to my master's program. I was in the last semester, about 2 months from finishing, and I received a message from the Academic Integrity Office stating that I had been flagged for AI usage. And I was absolutely floored. Now, at the time, I was, somebody with quite a few years under my belt, and I understood how to advocate for myself, and I understood what I needed to do to take the steps to remedy this situation. I think at that point, as a quote unquote non-traditional student, the Academic Integrity Office was more open-minded to speaking with me and resolving the issue, and it was wrapped up in a week. Fast forward, I am now teaching Gen Z. And the same people in the Academic Integrity Office, I am now having conversations with about my own students who are being flagged. They're being flagged by systems that we know are imperfect. And we are being told by companies that are coming to us saying, hey, I need an intern. They need to know this about AI, or we're developing this proprietary tool. And I'm in Northwest Arkansas. So we're in the land, well, I'm in Florida right now, but I'm in Northwest Arkansas primarily. We're in the land of Walmart and Walmart suppliers, and they're developing proprietary tools. And so we're telling students, you may not use this. It is academic dishonesty. You are at risk of losing your graduation, but I'm preparing you for the real world where you need to use AI. Well, that's a threat appraisal theory if we go into the research. And, Amy Edmondson and psychological safety, and we could go down this academic rabbit hole. But the bottom line is when they're having this extraneous cognitive load on, okay, if I get flagged, I can have, academic integrity is emailing me, I could lose graduation, I have sanctions on my record, but I need to know this. How are they navigating a system that is telling them two different things? And not only that, if we go into the university even further, from professor to professor and class to class, the policies are different. And so we're asking students between primarily the ages of 18 and 22 to navigate this while preparing them for the workforce. And there's something very wrong with that system. So I think we need to address it as professionals in HRD and organizational development.
Yeah, I mean, a big question would be, do you think, maybe here's a quick yes and no question, and then a second question after that. Do you think we're adequately preparing students for today and tomorrow's workplace, or yesterday's? I mean, when you look at higher education right now, being so immersed in it, what are your thoughts on that, or does it vary?
Well, I think we can say that it varies from professor to professor, but primarily we are preparing them for yesterday because as instructors and as professors, that is the world that we lived in. We are not looking at the world that they're going into.
Yeah, and I think there's so much confusion with how do you responsibly leverage and use AI and technology in a world where you do have to understand it and learn how to use it as a tool and not a crutch, and and that's the complexity, and I think that's probably where I think is what you're arguing for, is where higher education needs to change and have a pretty consistent approach.
Absolutely. I just wrote a research proposal on that.
Wow. So, okay.
Yes. So right. Cross fingers.
Both fingers crossed. I don't know if that's good. Good toes too. So you talk about, and I love this. This skills gap isn't really a technical skills gap anymore. It's judgment, and so you talk about the future belongs to people who know how to ask better questions and not just faster questions. And this goes hand in hand too with, getting access to AI. Yes, can feed us information, but productivity to what end? Speed to what end? If we're not truly problem solving and asking questions that haven't been asked before, and just so we can move faster, show productivity, we're not really moving the needle. So tell me a little bit about how you think about the skills gap being judgment versus technical.
Sure. I think to back up a little bit, every 30 years something freaks people out. In the 60s, it was the robots on the manufacturing floors of auto manufacturers. In the 90s, we had the internet. Oh, everybody's going to get lazy. We were allowed to use calculators on the SATs, and how could they do that? There's going to be no more math majors. And now, because AI is so democratized and much more accessible than in the 90s when it was just people who were able to afford internet dial-up and computers. Now, pretty much everybody has this at their fingertips. This is really about leaders slowing down in both higher education and in organizations, and understanding that this is also on them to adapt and learn too, and to teach this judgment and pass it on. Because the objective of organizational learning, whether we're in a industrial organization, whether we're in a tech startup, whether we're in higher ed, it is to evolve, and it is to make better decisions, and it is to understand how to think through those decisions as we make decisions for the business, as we make decisions for our teams, for our classmates, for our students. And so that is what the idea of continuing education and organizational development is for. It's no longer saying, hey, this flower has a problem, let's fix the flower. No, how's the soil? How's the sun exposure? What is the system around it in order to make sure that flower thrives? And so that's what we need to do, is start looking at the system holistically to understand what are our skills in order to be able to adapt to this changing world, because this is the first time almost that we're also adapting with students. We're learning it at the same time and still handling our curriculum and still handling the teaching and still handling academic integrity. And so there is a balance that we need to strike, but we need to realize as leaders that onus needs to land on us and not necessarily the students or the emerging professional that is just now learning how to navigate. It is our job to develop them. And so we have to develop ourselves in order to do that.
Double mic drop. Amazing stuff. So we have a couple of minutes. We need to do this again. So I'm going to ask you a couple sort of a little more rapid questions. And this comes back to some thematically throughout the last 40 minutes we've been talking about HR. And so the first question is, why do you think HR is still viewed as a support function? Because from what I have read, you understand, every business problem eventually becomes a people problem, and I completely agree with that. So why is HR still viewed as a support function versus really a people function?
The organization, the HR has evolved, but the name didn't evolve. And so people are still stuck on a name, and words have meaning. They carry a lot of weight, and language changes, but there are some things, just like a can of Coke, that they are not going to change over time. And so it is so ingrained in our minds what HR is and what it isn't. But one thing that I drive home to my clients is HR really needs to understand how to build business cases. When we use words that monetize people, it feels really yucky, but they need to understand how powerful that is to other areas of the business, because it all starts with them. They are the maestro, and none of those other departments are going to exist without them getting it right. That is how important and how vital it is to a business, but HR is not yet in that mode of languaging it in a way. And so that is something that I go in and teach HR teams to do. And it's not necessarily natural, although we know that so much of a company's value is within their human capital.
Yeah, I love that. All right, final fast question. I know you also talk about the need to, again, the importance of words to rename and kind of kill the name HRD, Human Resources Development, and replace it with OD and leadership. So I had a handful of questions about this. I'm so curious but just tell me a little bit about your thoughts there, since we have about a minute left.
Sure. As saying, the name hasn't evolved, and HR really is concentrating on the individual and saying, let's fix the individual. And let me rephrase, let's kill the stereotype that comes with HR. It's saying, let's focus on the individual and the organization will improve. But if humans are our most precious resources, why are we not developing organizations that are worthy of those humans? And so we need to be thinking about developing our systems. Like Peter Senge wrote a great book. It's not an academic book, called The Fifth Discipline. And he talks about this. In organizations, you need that organizational learning constantly so that your organization is evolving and developing. And so my belief is, if we are developing our organization holistically, then our people will thrive, not the other way around. It's from the inside out.
So well said. All right, I know we're out of time, but where can people find you? Is LinkedIn the best place?
LinkedIn, and my website is bstank.com for brandstrategytank.com.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So good to meet you. Thank you for joining us. I think we have an ad, sponsor ad, and a quick video. We can move to that now. Thank you, Heather. It was great.
Thank you.
Who's the fella who lights up a room when he walks in the door? Evan White, with so many strong ideas, he's creative to the core. Evan White, 'cause he's been at it for 20 whole years with plenty to show for his illustrious career. So if you're looking to grow your brand, then Evan White is here. 'Cause talent tech PR is sure to take soaring through the sky at incredible heights with talent, tech, PR from Evan White.
Good morning. We have another special phone call. Oh, here's our guest, Kristy. How are you this morning?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Well, thank you so much for joining the HR Morning Show, Kristy McCann. For people that don't know, um, I was reading your bio and you are fascinating. I think you've held every seat. So you've been a founder, CEO, CHRO, educator. You've done pretty much everything in this space. I'm curious, how do you navigate between all these different types of roles throughout your career?
Yeah, I think that they've all been really complimentary. I think
Yeah.
being a CHRO for so long really helped me become a CEO and a founder, not just for the experience and expertise, but I also think about the maturity component of really being able to look at an organization inside and out. I think there's just many different strengths of each one of the different roles and how you bring them together, that becomes symbiotic in a way rather than, so org chart like where that they're parallel universes, but they're not.
Mm. Yeah, it's so interesting because the one role that I'm very fascinated by that you've done, and you've started several different companies throughout your career, and I think there's always the picture being part of multiple startups and founding my own company as well. I think there's the picture out there that every founder works with a large team. Everything's rosy. Money's very easy to raise. Everything goes in smoothly. Then eventually you have a clean exit. This hasn't been the reality for you. I don't think it's been the reality for any founder that I know. But tell me a little bit about your journey about being a founder throughout the years.
Yeah, and so I being a founder is a privilege, and being in HR, I wanted to solve a big problem, right? A lot of the tech platforms out there just don't work, and it makes HR's job even harder when there's no visibility. Nobody likes using these platforms, and what true ROI are they really bringing? So, I put a lot of money into, building a new category within HR tech of bringing performance and learning together with goals. And so HR becomes less reactive and it's proactive performance and development real time with AI. And in putting this together, it was a dream. I built a great team, and I raised money. We were scaling, won awards on, Inc. 5000 for fastest growing companies multiple years in a row. But there's always the the Richter scale component of being a startup founder, and I had a bad actor on my cap table, and that's why I'm a legend in the Southern District of New York right now. That I guess the compliment is that you don't steal a bad company, but the onset of it is that a lot of damage was done to me, my other investors, and my company, along with a pattern that I found with many other companies with this bad actor that I'm alleging in my complaint in litigation.
Well, at the same time that you're dealing with these legal troubles, dispute, I should say, you're building another company and you're dealing with this. Like, how are you dealing with this? How are you running a company then? Because I know how taxing and overwhelming the other side of it can be. How is that going?
I think it's really about taking everything that I learned and then how to pay it forward. And so with 127 Ventures, I'm helping a bunch of different HR and work tech companies where they have the 5 Ps. They got the passion, they got the people, they got the product, they have the potential, and they have the platform. And when I look at these 5 Ps, it's really about continuing to do what I was trying to do at my company, right? Solve problems for people, and give them the development that they need at real time, to make organizations a lot easier. And each one of these organizations are doing it in different ways. And so I'm taking all my positive energy and
Yeah.
pushing it towards them so that they can realize their dreams while I, also am dealing with this. But I will say it's very educational. Like, again, there's always learning. Every time they get punched in the face, you learn something, right? And so I'm learning a lot and now becoming an advocate and an ally to make sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else.
So, being a founder, working with founders in a lot of cases, you've been a CHRO. I think you understand the importance of the first hire or highest in the organization. What type of advice do you give to the founders you're working with on that first hire or the first couple of hires? What should they be looking for?
I think you got to be looking at people who are amiable. And when I say that is that there's a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of unknowns, and you got to be looking at somebody that is a really good generalist player and that can work autonomously, but also add value to where your gaps and weaknesses are that they have as strengths. And so, my first couple of hires, including my co-founder, complete opposites of me. And they filled in where I wasn't good, and I filled in where they may not have been good, but we all had a flexibility where we were kind of like elastic, and we knew we had to pull, but we also when we needed to push in, and it's why we did so well during our bootstrap days before we even brought in VC money, and it's how we survived COVID. Because I was a scrappy startup during COVID and I was not getting government checks like everybody else. And so we were able to push through, and it's the best memories are you with your first hires, especially if you nail it. And I feel that I did
Yeah.
very early on.
At what point should you do that first hire? Like, what's the breaking point, or that's telling you, okay, I need someone to help me here?
Yeah, I mean, when I started my company, it was day one, but that was 8, 9 years ago. I think that AI has changed the game
Yeah.
where I'm doing a lot of things right now that I didn't have the ability to do. Like I'm pretty flexible, like with my skill set, but I didn't know how to code. Right now I
Yeah.
do. And so I think it's really where you can't break through anymore, but also where you need to be a learner again, right? Like I'm not a master of coding these days. I'm still leaning on developers for some of the things I'm doing, but it's really understanding again your strengths and your weaknesses, optimizing your time, and really spending time where your true talents are that are going to move the company ahead, and then where people can fill in, to continue to build that organizational hierarchy to what you need to do to scale.
No, in the synopsis or in the notes you sent to us before doing this interview, you quoted you two. I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
After everything you've built and everything you've been through and going through, what keeps you starting again? Like, what keeps you going here?
I think I being in HR, we're used to solving problems. I've been
Yep.
solving problems since birth. And being a founder, again, we're used to solving problems. There are a lot of problems going on in this country and in this world that all stem from the same things, right? Like
Yep.
it's that money, that power, deceit, and we need to educate, we need to thrive, we need to come together with unity. And so it's a big, ugly problem. But I am not going to be the person that complains about it. I'm going to be part of, the people that bring it together so that we can move forward in a way that is much nicer so that we're not all waking up to drama every single day. And maybe just so that we can, breathe, reflect, and enjoy life again. So,
To quote the great Mary J. Blige, no more drama.
yeah.
I love it. So, Chrissy, I really appreciate you being on the show. If anyone is looking to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
LinkedIn for good or bad. And then my website's 127 Ventures.
Perfect. Well, this was a pleasure. Please, everyone, check out Christy. I think she's doing some very interesting things. I wish you all the best in your ongoing challenges. And obviously, anytime you start a new company, it's always a roller coaster ride. So I know you'll do well. Christy, thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, Dan, that's a lot of guests that we went through very quickly this week, but very fascinating conversations. I don't know if there's some great insights, but if you're leaving with anything, boom, like that was new. I learned something here.
I mean, I get there's so much. I think thematically, the theme of how we continue to bring and understand and use AI in a people human centric workplace. I mean, certainly there's a theme that came up there. Your last conversation is fascinating. So many each one of these guests we could have done a 1 hour.
Yes.
Yes. So good, so great. And I love the commitment to people, to authenticity, being authentic, to being honest, to being just such good people, great conversations, inspired.
I am inspired. I think you nailed it. I think from years of doing long form podcasts, I've done 500 of them. I love to go in depth, and there's these three guests. I would love to go more in depth, and maybe we will in one of our multiple podcasts that we host here on the Purple Acorn Network. Dan, it's always a pleasure co-hosting. I think this is the second time we've done it together. You fascinate me. You've definitely got really strong knowledge of this space, because not to make you seem old, but you've been around a long time like I have, so we've gone through it.
Yep. We've put in our time, but it's so amazing to see so many great young voices and
Yes.
passion coming into this space. I mean, there's nothing. To me, that's the best, right? When you and I have been in this space for a while, we're still very young, but seeing young, exciting energy coming into the space, that's just gives me peace and makes me feel good.
So we have been doing this show for a long time now. This is episode 97. We're getting very close to 100. I think it's going to be September 1st will be our 100th episode. And that takes a lot of commitment from a lot of people. And I want to especially thank a couple of people. So our two main sponsors, Talent Tech PR and Evan White, that keeps this show going, and calendarpa.com, which without we couldn't be running this show. And I think it adds a ton of value to the HR community. So reminder, keep following us on LinkedIn. If you haven't followed us yet, go now, click on the follow button. If you want to see more about Purple Acorn and all our podcasts, go over to purpleacornnetwork.com. It's a beautiful website. It's my friend that designed it. I think it's amazing. And of course, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere else. But this has been another great show with great insights. Dan, it's always a pleasure. And for everyone listening and watching, we really appreciate you joining this show and our guests as well. So have a great Tuesday, everyone. Go kill it out there.
See everyone.